Namaskar, my dear friends. Jai Sri Krishna. Please listen to me carefully, not as a teacher, but as your Sarthi. This video is about why active, responsible, growth oriented, even devoted people still miss the Gita's real wisdom in life. This video is not about religion. It is not about rituals, not traditions or blind faith. It is about life, your decisions, your struggles, and your growth. Friends, the Bhagavad Gita is one of the most read, most respected, and most quoted book in human history. And yet, look around, look honestly at society, look at educated people, look at successful professionals. Confusion is increasing, stress is increasing, conflicts are increasing, dissatisfaction is also increasing. So, the question is not, is the Gita powerful? The real question is, why such powerful wisdom not transforming human lives? In this video, we will uncover the biggest barriers that block Gita transformation in life. These barriers explain why the Gita is ignored, why many people read it, why many people avoid it, and why it is misused, and why even those who read it do not transform their lives. I am not here to criticize anyone. I am not here to hurt any belief. I respect every seeker. But, friends, truth must be spoken, because only truth transforms. Let us begin with the first and most common barrier, the difference between reading the Gita and living the Gita. My dear friends, what I am about to say is not criticism. It is an observation born out of years of study, experience, and deep concerns of human life. Everyone knows this truth, yet very few people are ready to face it. Reading the Gita is not same as living the Gita. Most people respect the Gita. Millions read it. Many quote it confidently. Some even worship it daily. But very few apply it in their day-to-day decisions, emotions, and actions. Please understand this very clearly. The problem is not lack of devotion. The problem is not absence of faith. The real problem is misunderstanding the purpose of the Gita. The Gita was never meant only to be respected. It was never meant only to be quoted. It was never meant only to be worshipped. The Gita was meant to be practiced, and when the Gita is respected but not practiced, it slowly becomes a sacred book on the shelf instead of a living guide in life. This is the first silent failure to Gita transformation. Friends, the problem is not that people do not read the Gita. The real problem is something far more serious. People read the Gita wrongly. They read it partially or few verses daily. And because of this, Gita fails to create real transformation. Reason number one, the Gita is treated as a holy book, not as a life science. Most people approach the Gita emotionally, not functionally. They look for comfort, not clarity. They want peace, but without discipline. They expect the Gita to calm their mind, but they resist allowing it to correct their thinking. Please remember this powerful truth. The Gita is not meant to give you temporary emotional relief. The Gita is meant to re-engineer the way you think, decide, and act in life. And unless the Gita is studied like a science of living, transformation will never happen. And when the Gita is misunderstood at this very foundation level, every step taken after that only multiplies confusion instead of transformation. My dear friends, the first and biggest barrier to Gita transformation is very common. People believe the Gita is too complicated, not because they have studied it deeply, but because they have already disqualified themselves before learning even begins. Many people quietly assume it is in Sanskrit. I cannot understand. It is ancient, not for today's life. It is sacred but impractical. It is only for scholars, saints, and intellectuals, not for me. It is only for managers and leaders, not for people like me. Some even say it talks about moksha and liberation. I don't have any interest in that right now. So the problem is not in ignorance. The real problem is assumed disqualifications. And here is the truth. Listen carefully. Complexity is not in the Gita. Complexity lies in the way the Gita is taught. Now we enter the real barriers, those that stop people before even learning begins. The second barrier is even more dangerous because it feels harmless. It is postponement. Many people say, I will read the Gita later, maybe after retirement, or maybe during deep sorrow or crisis. One day I will have time. Some even say, I am waiting for God's call. But let me tell you the hard truth. This latter time never comes because life does not slow down just because you want wisdom later. Here is the real diagnosis. People treat the Gita like insurance, something to be used only in emergencies. But the Gita was never meant to be act like insurance. The Gita is the real life guidance. And remember this very clearly. The Gita was taught in the battlefield of life, not after life is over. Friends, this is one of the most silent yet powerful barriers that keep people away from studying the Gita. Many people ask, sometimes openly or sometimes silently, what will I actually gain from studying the Gita? And because they cannot see the benefits immediately, they step back and think, what is there in it for me? There is no clear outcome. These benefits feel them abstract, delayed, and invisible. So their mind rejects it. Now understand why this happens. From childhood, we have been trained to calculate material ROI, that is, money, marks, position, profits, returns, and etc. But we are never trained to understand inner ROI, that is, clarity, stability, wisdom, and decision making power. The Gita does not give instant emotional rewards, it gives structural transformation. And this wisdom works like compounding, slow in the beginning but irreversible and permanent in nature. Here is the core diagnosis. People reject what they cannot immediately calculate. But here is the truth, and this is very important. What cannot be measured instantly often transform life permanently. And that is why the Gita is ignored, not because it gives less, but because it gives too deep, too lasting, and too real returns. My dear friends, this next barrier is very subtle, but it is also one of the most dangerous barriers to real transformation. I call it ritual without understanding. What do I mean by this? Many people chant Gita regularly, but without understanding the meaning. They meditate, worship sincerely, but without studying the Gita wisdom. They visit temples faithfully, but without inner transformation. I often hear the statement like, I pray daily, so I don't need the Gita. I go to temple every day. I am already a spiritual person. The Gita is sacred. It is not something to be studied seriously. And now let me tell you a harsh irony. But please listen without offense. For many people, the Gita is considered so sacred that it is meant only to be touched. Touched during worship, touched during festival, or touched when swearing an oath in the courtroom. But never it opened, never questions, or never lived. And that, my dear friends, is not the respect, that is avoidance in the name of the devotion. Friends, let us be very honest here. People decorate Krishna, people worship Krishna, people celebrate Krishna, but they quietly ignore what Krishna actually taught. This is the core problem. Ritual is replacing responsibility. Emotion is replacing understanding. Comfort is replacing courage. The truth is very clear. The Gita was not given to satisfy emotion. It was given to transform the intellect. And when the understanding is missing, people don't just stop applying the Gita, but they begin to interpret it for their convenience. That brings us to the next barrier where the Gita is not just ignored but quietly misused. My dear friends, this barrier is very common and extremely dangerous. Many people genuinely believe I am already spiritual. They pray daily. They visit temples as spiritual tourism. They perform puja, vrat, tap, shanti, and so on. And because of this, they conclude I don't need the Gita. This is what I call comfort based spirituality. A spirituality that feels good but does not demand inner responsibility. Temple visits replace the study. Rituals replace the reflection. Priest replace the personal correction. Problems are outsourced instead of being understood. Life is surrendered instead of being mastered. Let me be very clear. Rituals can reduce anxiety. They can give temporary emotional relief. But only wisdom removes ignorance. Only wisdom corrects thinking. Only wisdom transforms decisions. Only wisdom resets destiny. And remember this eternal truth. Krishna did not teach the Gita in a temple, in a retirement age, or in a comfort zone, or in a cave. He taught it in the battlefield of life, when responsibility was unavoidable, when decision mattered, and when escape was impossible. The Gita is not for spiritual comfort. The Gita is for spiritual courage, my dear friends. My dear friends, there are many confusions in modern spirituality. Today, many people think they are spiritual, but they are confused about what the spirituality actually means and what Lord Krishna told in the Gita. They mistake the tools and the Gita wisdom. Yoga asanas are considered as the complete yoga of the Gita. Meditation alone is assumed to be total spirituality. Reading one summary book of the Gita or quoting few verses is believed to mean I know the Gita completely. Random shlokas are treated as complete life philosophy. And even corporate slogans are promoted as spiritual wisdom. This creates half knowledge, and mind it well, half knowledge is more dangerous than ignorance. This is why the Gita starts feeling abstract, confusing, and impractical. And slowly people avoid it altogether. Here, the real diagnosis is partial exposure creates false confidence, not clarity. Now listen to the truth very carefully. The Gita is not against the yoga. The Gita is science behind the yoga. The Gita is not a quotation book. It is the complete operating system for life, covering thinking, action, duty, decision, purpose, and liberation. And unless we understand the Gita as the system, not in fragments, transformation will never happen. When the fragments are mistaken for the whole, confusion becomes permanent. My dear friends, this is one of the most popular beliefs today. People say modern life has modern problems, so ancient books like the Gita are outdated. They believe that experts, books, podcasts, and video shorts and reels are enough to handle modern life. And slowly the Gita is pushed aside. Now comes a subtle trap. What I call it as false contentment trap. People say, I already feel peaceful through meditation. I practice yoga. I chant every day. Why do I need the Gita? And because peace is felt, they assume nothing more is required. But there is a critical distinction. Peace is not the clarity. Calmness is not correct decision making. A calm mind can still make wrong choices. A peaceful person can still destroy relationships, career, or life purpose unknowingly. The Gita was not given to make you feel good. The Gita was given to make you think clearly. It does not offer temporary fixes. It sharpens your intellect. It builds your wisdom, the ability to act rightly in complex situations in life. And that is why the Gita is not outdated. It is timeless. And that brings us to the next and most critical barrier. Friends, now comes one of the biggest blind spots. And please listen carefully. Because this single misunderstanding has kept billions of people away from the Gita. Everyone wants prosperity. Everyone wants success. Everyone wants money, not greed, but stability, dignity, and growth. Yet subconsciously, people carry one silent assumption that the Gita has nothing to do with money or success. They think Gita is spiritual, money is material. Gita is for renunciation and business is sophisticated. Gita is about living the desires, not fulfilling them. And here is the real damage caused by this myth. The moment people believe the Gita is against the goals, results, ambitions, and dreams, they stop taking it seriously as a life guide. They may respect it, they may worship it, but they do not study it deeply. And my friends, that is one of the biggest blind spot because the Gita was never anti-success against the money. In fact, it is against the ignorance about the success and wealth as well. Friends, this is one of the most dangerous barriers because it does not look like a mistake. Many people sincerely say, I am doing well, my life is fine. Why do I need the Gita? They are educated, they are earning, they are respected. There is no visible crisis in their life. And that is exactly the problem. Comfort delays the consciousness. When the life is smooth, the urgency for wisdom disappears. But here is the hidden danger. Success without wisdom slowly strengthens ego, and ego blinds before it destroys. Problems do not send advance notices. Confusion does not arrive with a warning label. Collapse does not ask permission. The Gita was never meant only for broken lives. It was meant for conscious living before the breakdown happens. The Gita is not the repair manual used after the damage. It is a preventive science to keep intelligence, humility, and clarity alive before success turns into arrogance or suffering. Friends, this barrier is very sensitive. Many people silently carry this question: if God exists, why am I suffering? Some say it openly, some feel it silently, and some slowly turn away from God because of it. They believe God did this to me, God failed me, because of God my life is stuck. So they avoid the Gita, not because they doubt its wisdom, but because they are emotionally hurt. Here is the fundamental misunderstanding. The Gita does not teach any bias or partiality or any favorism. It teaches law. Just as fire burns everyone equally, karma operates without emotion, reward, or revenge. Suffering is not the punishment, it is the information or prior signal. But the Gita becomes uncomfortable because it does something dangerous to their ego. It questions our decisions, not God's intentions. And that is why people stop listening. Ironically, people distance themselves from God at the exact moment when the guidance is most required for them. And friends, these misunderstandings of God's role does not only damage faith, It silently destroys people's relationship with work, wealth, and responsibility. Next barrier, fate, luck, or kundali. This is where spirituality becomes dangerous or reason to escape the responsibility. For example, some people believe if we return in kundali, it will happen. I would like to say a very important thing about the Gita. In the entire Bhagavad Gita, Krishna never told about Arjuna's fate, kundali, stars, or planet positions, and so on. Not once. Instead, he spoke relentlessly about action, responsibility, intellect, discipline, and choices. Why Krishna ignored fate and focused entirely on karma? This is a deep subject. We will explore this systematically in our advanced programs. But because of this misunderstanding, some people stay away from the Gita wisdom. Most people carry a very dangerous belief about the Bhagavad Gita. They believe that Gita is only about moksha or liberation and renunciation. They believe spirituality is separate from money. They believe success, ambition, business, and prosperity are not spiritual. That is why people say things like, right now I have more responsibilities. Spirituality is not meant for professionals or entrepreneurs or businessmen. Now pause and think logically. Where was the Gita spoken? Not in a forest, not in a cave, not in an ashram. The Gita was spoken on the battlefield. My dear friends, a battlefield is not about moksha. A battlefield is about career, duty, power, wealth, loss, fear, and decision making. Arjuna did not ask Krishna, how do I attain moksha or liberation? Arjuna asked, what should I do in this critical life situation? And this is very important in life. Now let us address the most ignored reason why people fail to transform through the Gita. This is not a personal failure. This is a systematic failure. Most sincere people want to understand the Gita. They attend lectures. They read books. They listen to discourses. Yet their life remains unchanged. Why? Because there is no structured path. People keep asking, where is the right guru? Who is the authentic teacher? Which interpretation of Gita is correct? But real problem is deeper. The Gita has been reduced to lectures, not a living system. Long talks, beautiful explanations, but no structure, no sequencing, no framework, no continuity. People read once and then they forget. People read Gita for years but without clarity. There is no revision, no recall mechanism, no reinforcement loop. So, most importantly, this wisdom never enters daily choices, decision making, business decisions, emotional reactions, money choices, relationship conflicts, life priorities, and so on. And without applications, Gita and its wisdom remains philosophy. Friends, please understand this very carefully. The Bhagavad Gita does not exist to comfort us. It removes excuses, not just ignorance. It exists to correct us. The Gita refuses to manipulate our ego. The Gita does not remove problems by giving excuses. It removes problems by destroying victimhood. It ends the habit of blaming fate, luck, or people, or even circumstances. It demands personal responsibility, and most importantly, the Gita strengthens our belief in God with clarity, not with blind faith. It enforces clarity before comfort, and that is why it empowers action, not emotional escape. This is what the Gita truly offers. And friends, this is exactly why it must not be ignored. Now, the real question is not what the Gita offers. The real question is, are we ready for it? This raises one critical question for all of us today. What is the missing path that converts Gita knowledge into lived transformation? Friends, before we go further, I want to ask you a very honest question. Did we ignore the Bhagavad Gita or did we actually misuse it? Because the problem was never a lack of respect for the Gita. The real problem was something else. What was missing until now was a clear path of transformation. Not random lectures, not isolated shlokas, not emotional inspiration that fades away after a few days. What was missing was a step-by-step learning architecture that takes a seeker from basics to clarity to mastery. A system that shows clear progressions from listening to understanding to inner transformation and finally to real life application. The Gita was never meant to be locked in books or in temples. It was meant to guide our daily decisions, actions, and responsibilities. What was missing was a system that balances spiritual wisdom with worldly life, so that learning does not evaporate but it compounds. And that is exactly where the GitaShastra movement begins. Friends, it is a structured path for transformation, which Gita Mastery movement provides to humanity. It is the system that converts Gita wisdom into clarity in decisions, power, and actions in life. Friends, the Gita Shastra movement is not a single product, not a course, not a lecture. It is a structured transformation system designed for peace, purpose, power, and prosperity in modern life. This ecosystem works in three integrated layers. First, Gita Shastra Mastery or GSM. This is the resource layer. Here, the Bhagavad Gita is studied systematically, not as a mere sacred book, but as a structured framework of life science. Through books, courses, videos, online and offline. Second, Gita Driven Prosperity or GDP. This is the application layer. Here, Gita Dharma is applied to real life, to decisions, responsibilities, actions, money, and others also. Here, the Dharma, Karma, Artha, and Moksha are not treated as theory but as the four pillars of a truly fulfilled life. And third, the GDP Academy or GDPA. This is the distribution layer. This layer creates trained individuals, sarthis, trainers, and leaders who live the Gita wisdom, apply it in their life and work, and most importantly, help others to apply it and spread it responsibly across the world. This is the structured path we were missing. A path that moves a seeker from knowledge to clarity to action and finally to transformation in life. Friends, I have given you a brief introduction of our Gita Shastra Mastery movement. Here, the purpose of this video is different. Now let me tell you very important thing from the Gita. At the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna does not ask Arjuna to chant more, to perform rituals, or to prove devotion. In the verse, chapter 18, verse 72, Krishna asks Arjuna only three questions: calm, precise, and uncompromising. Krishna asks, did you listen attentively? Has your ignorance been destroyed? And are you free from confusion now? That is all. These are not religious questions, my dear friends. These are diagnostic questions for inner transformations. And Arjuna's answer is not emotional, philosophical, or devotional. Arjuna immediately says, my delusion is destroyed. I have regained clarity by your grace. I am free from confusion, and now I am ready to act according to your wisdom. Friends, this is the true outcome of the Gita. Not information, not belief, not another ritual, but clarity, conviction, and conscious action. If a person cannot say from within, then the Gita has been heard only, not yet lived, because the purpose of the Gita was never a ritualistic expansion. The purpose of the Gita was clarity. The Gita was spoken to destroy ignorance, not to decorate belief. And this question is not only for Arjuna, my dear friends, it is for every human being who learns this wisdom. Friends, now after revealing the ecosystem, Krishna's final question returns not only to Arjuna, but to you, my dear friends, and to every human being. The Gita does not end with a command, it ends with a question. Because transformation cannot be forced, it must be chosen. The GitaShastra movement is built on one fundamental framing. The Gita is not just a scripture to be worshipped, it is a living operating system for life. That is why the Gita must be studied as a universal life science, not merely as a scripture, belief, ritual with blind faith. Friends, the Gita insists on clarity before spirituality, responsibility before rituals, and application before interpretation. Because wisdom does not transform a person merely by being heard. Wisdom transforms a person only when it is understood, structured, and lived. And this is the eternal truth. When the wisdom is structured, transformation becomes certain. This is how the Gita applies not only to salvation, but to our emotions, decisions, work, actions, and life itself. And therefore, we must first challenge and overcome the barriers which are explained as above in this video that no one talks about. Friends, at this point, an important question arises. Why does the Gita Shastra movement exist at all? The world does not suffer from lack of intelligence. We have degrees, data, experts, technology, and information everywhere. What the world truly lacks is something else. Weak willpower, confused life purpose, misunderstood spirituality, and deeply fragmented knowledge that never converts in actions. Friends, the Gita was never meant to be admired, quoted, or ritualized. It was meant to be lived. Look carefully at Arjuna's response after hearing the entire Gita. He did not say, I understand. He did not say, I feel peaceful. He said to Lord Krishna only one sentence, Karishe Vachanam Tava. I shall act according to your word. This is very important, my dear friends. That is the only acceptable outcome of the Gita. Clarity that leads to action, wisdom that leads to responsibility, and knowledge that reshapes life itself. This is why the Gita Shastra movement exists. Not to create audiences, but to create Arjunas, that is, clear, courageous, decisive, and action-oriented human beings. Friends, now you have understood why the Gita Shastra movement exists and also that the Gita is not meant for belief alone. It is meant for living. So, this invitation is only for those who are serious, not curious, not emotional, only serious. And also remember, when the Gita defines transformation, it means responsibility and action, not just inspiration, not just emotion. So, when it assures that such transformation is possible, and when there exists a clear path of Gita Shastra movement to make it happen systematically and repeatedly, then one question becomes unavoidable. Are you ready to act like Arjuna in your life? If you are ready to study the Gita and live the life as the Gita way, not just believe in it, then the next step is very simple. Watch the next video, Gita Shastra Bootcamp. Friends, this video was not created in isolation. It is a part of carefully designed Gita orientation video series. In the first video, we answered why the Gita was told and equally important, why it was not told for. In the second video, we expose the hidden losses people suffer when the Gita is not studied. In the third video, we have removed the real barriers, the excuses, misuses, and blind spots that keep people away from the Gita wisdom. But friends, identifying the problem is not only the same as solving it. That is why the next video exists, GitaShastra Bootcamp, where you will see how the Gita must be studied, how it was structured by Lord Krishna, and how it can be applied in daily life. My dear friends, the Gita is the life science you must enter into, step-by-step system, in the right sequence. Because without a system, wisdom becomes inspiration, and inspiration fades away, and life remains unchanged. And if you are ready for the real transformation in life, enroll for the foundation course from our Gita Shastra ecosystem. Learn Gita in just one day. Because the truth is, the Gita enters in life only when the intellect bows before the truth. Krishna asked Arjuna only one final question, and today the Gita asks you the same question. And please remember, Arjuna's final clarity was expressed in one sentence, that is, Karishye Vachanam Tava. My friends, at Gita Shastra Mastery Moment, this very sentence stands in our logo as the constant reminder of our duty towards the Lord. This moment does not exist to create audiences. It exists to awaken Arjuna inside you. Before you decide your next step, remember, the Gita was never asked for followers. It asked for clarity, courage, and commitment to action. Friends, let me clarify something very important here regarding the foundation course. Learn Gita in just one day. This course is not about speed. It is about correct entry into the Gita wisdom. Most people fail to apply the Gita wisdom not because it is vast, but because they never see its complete structure at once. Partial reading creates confusion. Random verses create an illusion of understanding. Also, long timelines of Gita discourses dilute its urgency and clarity. A one-day immersion in Gita solves all these three problems. Friends, the Gita was never meant to be studied randomly. It is meant to be entered with openness and understood completely as a whole, and then applied progressively in daily life, not merely remembered. Learn Gita in one day corrects this sequence permanently. It gives you the entire map of the Gita first, so that every future study becomes clear, meaningful, and applicable. Once the foundation is clear, the question is no longer what Gita says. The question becomes, are you ready to live it? Also, this foundation course, Learn Gita in just one day, is not a devotional reading. It is not for emotional comfort. It is for becoming more than spiritual. It is for those who do not want to misuse the Gita, dilute it, or postpone it to old age. This is a dharma-based, action-oriented, solution-focused understanding of life, where decisions matters, responsibility matters, and purpose matters. People who attend this one-day course experience a visible shift in life. They stop blaming fate, luck, people, or circumstances. Further, they stop searching for shortcuts, remedies, and external fixes in life. They stop outsourcing responsibility for their life. And something very important begins. They start seeing life through Krishna's framework, not through fear, not through superstition, not through borrowed beliefs. This is where the divine within you awakens, not as emotion, but as clarity, courage, and conscious actions. This one-day course gives you clarity, but clarity alone is not the destination, my dear friends. The real question is, are you ready to go deeper and live the Gita consistently as the Gita Shastra Mastery? Jai Shri Krishna. My dear friends, This is not the end. This is just the beginning. The Gita does not change life when it is watched only. It changes life when it is lived. Knowledge ends confusion. After taking responsibility, real transformation begins. Karishye vachanam tava. Jai Shri Krishna.